Hello, Paul. How's it going?
Hi, Jacqueline. How are you?
I'm good. Did you get a haircut?
I did.
It looks very sharp, very nice. I like
Well,
it.
thank you. Thank you. I look less like a slob. Actually, my haircut, my barber's daughter, who's like this adorable, I guess, 12-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever she was, she's young,
Oh.
once said to me, "You look like Einstein." So now when I make an appointment, I asked, I say this is Einstein, and they know exactly who I am, and it's really fun.
Yes,
All
yes,
right,
yes.
so get this show on the road. Let's get on the rails. On the
We
rails.
we got off the rails pretty early this time.
Yep.
So last week's cover story was an episode of The Director. So as always, I'm not going to dive too deep into that here because you can go listen to the entire podcast yourself on, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, all the places. We had Roy Herbst and David Gaius. Roy Herbst is director of Dartmouth Cancer Center, and David Gaius is director and professor of University of Cincinnati Cancer Center. And they talked a lot about they basically are both kind of starting their jobs as cancer center directors. And as you look ahead into this, however you want to describe the world right now, especially in the world of science and the world of designated cancer centers, et cetera, they looked ahead, and that's how I'll leave it.
Well, it's really interesting to just bring together two of the newest cancer center directors, and just ask them, hey, do you what this is your dream job? What's it like? And this is also catching them during that period of the first few weeks where they're drinking or trying to drink water out of a fire hose, trying to understand how in that name, how does that work? So it's kind of fun, and they both were as excited as anybody can possibly be with this amazing job.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for the proper summary, Paul. Story two was we did a story about the recent FDA Advisory Committee about Replimune's RP1 therapeutic. That's what we're going to be talking about in more detail, or one of the stories we'll be talking about in more detail today. But yeah, we'll dive in. Our story three, Sarah wrote a story about the U.S. News and World Report cancer hospital rankings. We do that every year. It's kind of a weird little story that we do, but this one was pretty interesting because this was the first time, to my knowledge, or my memory at least, that we were talking about the idea of AI. AI is everywhere. It's ubiquitous, but I just thought it was interesting that it made the headline in the news, even in this story, which was surprising. And then we had a really cool guest editorial by Raja Flores. He spoke about a Keytruda commercial and basically dove into sort of the nuance of what that promises patients and maybe what that leaves out in terms of the nuance of cancer treatment, especially it was neoadjuvant immunotherapy, right, Paul, in lung cancer. I just wanted to mention one cancer policy just because it's been a big story for us sort of as it's been playing out. But the OMB proposed rule that has, it's sort of taken the at least the science community by storm. There's been a lot of pushback. It would really politicize science is sort of the issue, and a lot of scientists have really pushed back on it. There were what was it? Was it 500,000 comments? I'm forgetting now, but there were so many comments from the community.
It was 500,000. That's correct number.
Awesome. Good. My memory is still working.
Yeah, you're still doing well for
almost 30. Oh my gosh.
For a 30-year-old, you're doing okay.
Hey, I'm 29. I'm not 30 yet. Not 30 yet. But anyway, so yeah, they the whole question as we were covering that story is how it was actually going to play out, because there were sort of some questions, and because OMB doesn't necessarily have to, it has to read all of the comments, but it doesn't stipulate what it has to do in response to the comments. So that was sort of an open question. But recently, the Senate leaders proposed a stopgap funding bill, a continuing resolution through December 11th, I believe, through December of 2026. And includes a stipulation that basically, like bans OMB from finalizing the rule at least until December, until the end of the CR. So that was really exciting news. It was just a cancer policy. We didn't dive too deep into it, but it was just really exciting to hear that there's actually some movement on Capitol Hill about this this proposed rule that really everybody was not too happy about, not too excited about. So yeah, I think that's it. Is there anything else from last week, Paul? I think there were some other good cancer policies. A federal judge declined to block the Medicaid work requirements. HRSA redrafted the 340B rebate pilot program, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely,
et cetera. It's worth reading. It's all interesting to read, and it's all up there. But really, the between the RP1 story, that approval, and the story of U.S. News and World Report rankings, that's pretty interesting. So, yes. And of course the directors, but the directors is one of those things where it kind of speaks for itself, as you say.
The UK Markey Cancer Center makes cancer-free tomorrows possible through discoveries and innovations made today. From precision therapies to innovative clinical trials, they're here not only to bring you the best treatments available, but to help advance cancer care across the Commonwealth and beyond. And they're doing it right in Kentucky. Hope lives there. And so does a community dedicated to helping you move forward with strength, clarity, and compassion. To learn more or request an appointment, visit ukhealthcare.com/Markey.
Should we start with RP1 or should we start with US News? Both are interesting.
Let's start with RP1 probably, right? Let's get the juicy stuff out of the way, or the meaty stuff maybe is a more appropriate definition.
Well, juicy. I don't know whether it's juicy or meaty. It's definitely not grisly, like gristle, not bear.
Not like fatty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, it was sort of this end to a saga, sort of. There was a whole history going back at least several years with Replimune and FDA. This was the third submission of RP1. RP1 is based on a strain of herpes simplex virus that's engineered and genetically armed to maximize tumor killing potency, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the important part about this drug, or this biologic, is that it is injected directly into the tumor. So it's an intratumoral therapy, and that will be important later, I promise. But for the saga part of it, it's that, this was the third submission after two rejections, and two sort of rejections that the company wasn't necessarily expecting. And it fit into sort of this broader trend where companies were getting unexpected answers, negative answers, unexpected rejections from FDA at a time when there was a lot of change in leadership. At that time, Marty McCary was the FDA commissioner and Vinay Prasad was head of CBER. So there was a lot of sort of tumultuous, we don't know exactly why these answers are coming out of FDA, et cetera, et cetera. And there was a huge pushback from the melanoma community. RP1 is a drug for melanoma. And I'm sure Paul's going to have stuff to say about that.
I'm preparing to say all of what I have to say. Drawing mental notes. Yes.
I can feel them building.
Yeah.
But what I'll say just before I turn it over to Paul is that what actually happened last week was that FDA brought the application, this third submission of basically the same data, to an advisory committee meeting. It wasn't ODAC, but it was the Cellular Tissue and Gene Therapies Advisory Committee. And they voted 10-3 in support of the biologic, even though that's sort of, we'll get into that as well. And then FDA approved the drug about a week later. So that I'll pass it to you because I just...
Close to the PDUFA date is why they approved it quickly. It wasn't the shotgun wedding. It was PDUFA. Respect for PDUFA. Yes.
And it was actually technically after the PDUFA date. It was a couple of days late. So. But it was around around the PDUFA date.
Well, I think what's really interesting about this one is that now there is no way in the heck that anyone can predict what FDA is going to do and why and how. it is absolutely has become,
Oh, you mean generally? Yeah.
Yeah, in the past, you could sort of figure it out.
Yeah.
Oh, you have no chance here.
Yeah.
But in this case, I don't know. I mean, I'm in the fog. I'm in this, and if anybody pretends not to be in the fog, I want to hear from them. But
you want to hear from people pretending not to be in the fog?
Pretending to be not, no, explaining to me why they're not in the fog.
Yeah,
because
why they're not, yes.
Think about it. Here is an agent that is administered into the tumor. If you administer alcohol into the tumor will do strange things and go away, or something, or some of them will, and some won't. Who knows? If you administer a knife to a tumor, things will happen as well.
Like
so by itself, that doesn't mean. So there's got to be systemic effect, but it's a single-arm study and not a large one at that. Well, before you get into the logic of the decision, which you actually went through much closer than I did, I was just kind of being confused by it, as were the committee members. But let's get to the who makes the decision. In the good old days, pre-McCarry days of FDA, something like this would have gone to the FDA Oncologic Drugs Advisory Committee, which would have decided it would have decided, and you would have been able to understand why it's deciding that. And this is interesting because it's a really complicated sort of thing here. And what would have happened at ODAC? I don't know. I think it didn't have a snowball's chance in hell for as long as Vinay Prasad was there. There's no way. And both of their, the complete response letters were signed by Prasad.
Yeah.
But then there were other sort of political meddling and so forth. But FDA really, instead of just going straight to the committee decides, what are we, are we making decisions based on the recommendations of advisory committees? Are we not making recommendations of advisory committee? And by the way, the reason it didn't go to an advisory committee in the beginning is that Commissioner McCarry was completely opposed to the idea of holding advisory committees.
Yeah. So
this whole idea of, this culture of at least I don't know if it's a transparency. Yeah, it's transparency of something, of a decision like that, and insulation from political influences. All of that, I mean, going forward, if you ask me if a drug has a snowball's chance in hell, I will not be able to honestly tell you. In the past, I could sort of tell what my questions are. I wouldn't be able to tell you where it's going to go.
Yeah.
But here, the committee is asked to divine a systemic effect on this thing. How do you see it in a tiny, single arm trial? Yeah, it's a horrible disease. Yeah, it's resistant to a lot of therapies. Yeah, there is a need. So getting an accelerated approval may make sense, but when I'm listening to ODAC members, not ODAC, excuse me, the blah, 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 blah advisory committee, you looked at it more carefully. How did you understand it?
Yeah, it was a weird one. I mean, I just wanted to go back. I have a lot of little quotes I wanted to bring up because I feel like the quotes were the most helpful with all of this. I mean, the ODAC committee members are always what I lean on the most. And of course, the presentations from FDA and the company. But the one thing that I think was helpful for me, because I just haven't covered a lot of melanoma, was a quote by Paul B. Chapman, Chief Medical Officer of the Moffitt Cancer Center of Weill Cornell Medicine and New York Presbyterian Hospital. He said, 1% perspective to remember for those of you who are not in melanoma is that we've been injecting melanoma since 1891, and we've injected it with all sorts of things, bacteria, viruses, toxins. Most of them will result in regression of the injected tumor, but almost none of them have an abscopal effect, which is this sort of systemic effect, or this where you see a reduction in tumor size, I believe. Don't quote me on that again. I'm sort of in a clinical area I'm not super familiar with, but that we're not injected with this actual intratumoral therapy, right? So I thought that was really interesting because that was something that I really hadn't had any sort of exposure to, and maybe you had before, but that was something that was really new to me. And then something else that I think sort of made it hard for me was what you were saying, Paul, about the fact that it was a single arm trial. Beyond the fact that it was just a single arm trial, it was a single arm trial that was like, it just wasn't, there was no historical control arm that could really be put together and created.
Synthetic control.
But synthetic, but also like historical, right? So in the past, there have been, basically they did a study of, or they did an analysis of the heterogeneity of the population that was actually on the single arm trial. And it was just not representative of other trials that, so it was like, first of all, there was too many, there were a lot of people who had, what was it? This actually wasn't in the story, it's a little exclusive, but it was like, basically there were clinical characteristics that made up the population of that study that would have, or could have contributed to it looking better than it was. And so that was another sort of confounding issue. Thirdly, I think what was really tricky is that, like you're saying, Paul, the main issue, and this is what was repeated over and over by all of the members, was, seeing tumor sort of regression or tumor response in the injected tumors is not that notable. It's been done before, but again, this sort of systemic effect is what would be novel, is what would be exciting, et cetera. So that's what they were trying. And RP1 sort of puts forward the idea that it does, right? Like that was what they were going for. They had sort of examples of showing that. There was a lot of messiness in terms of what that data actually looked like. FDA got down into like the patient level data, and even showed an example showing that the criteria we have to measure response to intratumoral therapies is really not equipped for intratumoral therapies. They use the resist criteria, which is specifically for solid tumors and not for intratumoral therapy. And literally they had a perfect example of like, let's take one patient who has two lesions, both are injected. And then at the next time, one of them shrinks, one of them stays the same, and a new lesion appears. What is that? How do you classify that? Is that a response? Is that a progression? And there were a lot of issues. One of the people, I want to say the one radiologist on the committee said, that, quote, "This is really messy data. Going from a progressive disease to not evaluable, right? These are response classifications, to a complete response. You just shouldn't see that. So we have to explain that." And so there were some real like design trial conduct issues. So it was just like so incredibly messy is kind of my point. And I think the issue is that what the other side of things, right? And why most of the committee members ended up voting in favor is that the other option for this population, the only other approved drug, is one that is intensive. It's inpatient. It's long. It has like a lot of adverse events, and it has like an 8% treatment related mortality rate. So the way that I heard, and I could be misunderstanding, this is a little bit of my view or my interpretation of what happened, but what I heard from the committee members was that because this is a population that is really in a lot of need, RP1 was originally given breakthrough therapy designation, that they were pushing for, or they voted for the accelerated approval. Every single ODAC member, or basically, even if they didn't say it outright, they all alluded to this. Every single one that voted yes still said, we don't actually know. We just see that there's enough signal for an accelerated approval with a confirmatory trial, a phase 3 randomized confirmatory trial, confirming whether or not this signal is actually
Yeah.
showing something.
Well, but it's interesting because in the past, had it gone to ODAC in the old days, which aren't that long ago.
Not that long ago. Yeah, not that old.
Yeah, there would have been a Pazder moment where Dr. Pazder would say to the committee, and this is assuming it went to the committee when it would have ordinarily gone to the committee, which in the beginning, he would have just reminded, this is why, this is why we don't know this. This is why we don't know that. Just kind of lay it all out. And it's not, maybe that drives the committee in some forms, but usually what I saw was a lot of flailing on this one. Actually, the most interesting one was Janet Witta's comment. Do you want to read that?
Sure.
That's kind of amazing comment because she voted yes.
Mm-hmm. But which
is funny because she's the most one of the great biostatisticians.
I know. And the other biostatistician, Carla Ballman, was like, I hear the sort of confusion or question around clinical meaningfulness, but like as a biostatistician, I can't vote yes. Was
you can vote yes, you can vote no, but she voted no. But
Wittes, sorry, I did get a little off topic here. Wittes said. So my yes was pretty close to a no. And what I really want to do is abstain because I don't know the answer. And to me, what I feel is yes, it's evaluable. You can evaluate that. So that is to me a non-word. Is it clinically meaningful? I have to listen to those people who treat. I don't know. But it seems to me, if you ask me, do I know what their event rate is? No. Do I know what the duration is? No. Can I evaluate that? Yeah, I can evaluate it. I don't know. So I voted yes. But don't take that as a yes, this is convincing data. Okay. Yes, I can evaluate. So that was sort of, and that's always come up, sort of the the idea of committee members, please answer the question that we're asking. But then of course the votes are taken sort of, as a signal of support or non-support for the application. And that's not what it's supposed to be, but
prepare for more of these because it takes what we've seen is FDA not acting the way FDA ever has. FDA just being something else. I don't know what that means. I don't think anybody else knows what they mean. But I think that Dr. Wittes's comments should be engraved on white marble in gold.
Where?
With a big, shaped like a question mark. Fuzzy and whatever. Just really an amazing comment. Amazing. That's why we stuck it on the top of your story, which was of our story.
Yeah.
Because I've never been more puzzled writing a story about FDA, and I think this is just the beginning.
Yeah. Well, on that lovely note, should we quickly go over
speaking of being puzzled.
Do you want to sort of start on that? Because you were an editor on this. I just glanced over it. I didn't read too much on this story. U.S. News. It's we write it every year, and sometimes there's an interesting story there, but it's a totally non-scientific index that people rely on in making decisions, and actually, it has ended careers of cancer center directors. At least there's apocryphal stories about that. Slipping a few slots down there is going to get you sacked. Yes. So it's always fun to cover it. Yeah. So if you look at the top 5 for this year, yes, you want me to read them?
Yeah, but or don't. Either way,
because it's the same, right?
Yeah, it's the same as last year. To me, that was the most interesting piece of it. That nothing changed in the top 5, and then we have this thunderous flood of press releases, just, breaking through like it's a, breaking a dam, from every institution saying, we're up 7 points. Please. Anybody who makes these decisions based on the standing in U.S. News, or anybody who makes employment decisions based on that, it's just silly, and it's just the way the structure is designed. You're always going to have MD Anderson on top, which has been the case for a long time. It's in the story. Yeah. It's accurate in the story. Yeah. And
since 2015.
And MSK once got in there, but only over. That's the most interesting story we've ever done on this. Was when a lot of MD Anderson's data were not getting in.
Oh, really? Is it before my time, I guess?
Yeah, and that was pretty funny. And it was kind of fun.
And that's when MSK got first?
This is from their sickest patients. Wasn't getting in because they were going into the emergency department. And that data wasn't getting in. And then MSK got very upset by this and wrote a letter to U.S. News saying we should recalculate using these data. And as they did, U.S. News said, no, we can't accept data from you. We only accept data from not from institutions, which is kind of interesting because they accept data from institutions when they evaluate colleges. So if you want to really go down, into the rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can't. We cover this story as a service to our readers, but and in this case, and sometimes there's something interesting we can manufacture. To me, the most interesting part of the story was that nothing changed since last year in the top 5, and that was the original headline.
I know. I was just going to say that.
Yes, which
got overruled.
Got overruled by committee here, and I said, okay, fine.
It was funny though. Katie was like, Katie, our director of operations, made a really good point. She was like, this news headline is nothing happened.
To me, that's news.
I know.
Nobody in the top 5 is going to get sacked. Top 5, top 5 what?
Yeah,
who knows?
Literally.
I mean, a lot of these places are fantastic, and they can be in the 50th, and they are still a fantastic place to go. And some of it's just and it's not the same as the NCI designation in the least, and the definitions of what it constitutes which cancer center is something else, and it's mired in their history and their methodology.
Yeah.
And it's not sensitive to change. Like you can have an institution in turmoil, but nothing happens on that index. So I personally, I don't know. Oh, the only thing that was kind of really somewhat interesting in this story, I shouldn't poo-poo our own stories, but
the only thing that was kind of interesting.
The only thing that was halfway interesting is that when we talked to the person in charge,
Ben Harder,
they said that more patients are accessing this thing through AI. So that's the story. Is actually, I'm not really sure I understand how they got those numbers. Maybe it's from last year, because this year they just published it. The embargo just went up, but that's the idea.
I think it's true. But it's a lot of our content is appearing in AI summaries. Ben Harder, who is the source on this story, he's the managing editor and chief of health analysis at U.S. News. So it's fewer patients. In some cases, fewer patients go to publishers' websites to access information because AI is summarizing it and providing it to them. So I think that was interesting. I mean, I think it's like more like just,
It's kind of their observation that more and more people are going there through AI. I actually do not know what that means in terms of implications. It probably makes it a lot more accessible. So certainly doesn't affect their rankings.
Yes, doesn't affect the ranking. It's just access. What
It's just
people
access.
see. Yes, just access. Just no.
Yeah. So that information is suddenly becoming more influential, which, fine.
How you feel about that? Yeah.
It's really hard to get me to feel anything about any of that. It's.
What did you say? Anything about anything?
About that?
Okay,
no, it's just.
I get you.
It's a 6-7, as they say.
It's made it onto the podcast for listeners. Paul he is so locked into the kids these days because
we just had 4 grandchildren born in 6 months apart.
Yeah.
So it's completely insane. But 6-7, only one of our grandkids says that.
Yes.
Paul knew turning 8.
Yes, there you go. That's and Paul knew 6-7. There you go. Hey. But he knew it before I did, which was, I don't know what that is. Not quite embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
Fine.
It should be.
I don't have any kids around. I don't have any teenagers I'm hanging out with. And I'm not trying to get this information off TikTok. That would be embarrassing. But anyways, beautiful combo. Anything we missed, Paul?
Probably a lot of things, but they should probably be.
They should stay missed.
They should stay missed. I am so ready to take a few days off and just stare into space or not think about the cancer letter for a bit because.
Just a little bit. Yep.
Well, here's the thing. This job, it's seasonal. July and August, early August, are really rough because we're all burnt out. And we just need a fresh start, which we get in September. So next time you see us, we're going to be all ready to...
chipper.
Of course, we'll be doing some podcasting, but that's easier. On the verge of taking a few weeks off to do something else, this is a particularly good time to be a journalist.
Agreed. All right. Thank you, Paul. And listeners, I will see you throughout August, but I will also see you bright and fresh for normal podcasting stuff in September. Bye.